Napoleon Solo and Illya Kuryakin, two of the coolest spies to ever hit American television in the 1960s. The year was 1962, and the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, was released, but the boom of spy story TV shows in the mid-60s had yet to come. It was in this light that MGM producer Norman Felton came up with a brilliant idea. A weekly TV show where different civilians would help the agents of an international spy organization called the U.N.C.L.E, or U.N.C.L.E, defeat their primary adversary, Thrush, an infamous organization that wanted to conquer the planet. Felton asked for a series title and the main character's name from one of his favorite writers, James Bond creator Ian Fleming himself. And that's how Napoleon Solo, portrayed by actor Robert Vaughn, was born.
My name is Napoleon Solo. I'm an enforcement agent in Section 2 here. That's operations and enforcement.
The show was supposed to be called Ian Fleming Solo, but the rising success of the 007 brand, led by Eon Productions, which retained the James Bond copyright, to warn MGM and Felton not to use either Ian Fleming's or Napoleon Solo's names. Unfortunately, the third James Bond movie, Goldfinger, was now in the works, and one of its supporting characters was named Mr. Solo. Not even Ian Fleming's interference, who stated that he gave Solo's name to the series, could save the series title, and thus The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was born. A 70-minute color television pilot was then filmed between November and December 1963 at Lever Brothers Soap Factory in California. The pilot was sent to NBC and was then previewed by the executives, who were not impressed. First off, the pilot was too long. They needed it to fit into a 1-hour TV slot, so it had to be no longer than 50 minutes to make room for commercials, of course, and they wanted it in black and white. The next request was the worst one by far. The Russian main character, portrayed by David McCallum, just wasn't working for them. They wanted to drop his character and the actor portraying him. But as you already know, David McCallum played the character of Illya Kuryakin until the very last episode of the series. So how did he manage to stay? As far as we know, one of NBC's prominent executives called producer Norman Felton, saying that he wanted to get rid of that foreign guy, but he didn't remember his name. As luck would have it, the head of the U.N.C.L.E. in the first pilot was portrayed by an actor named Will Kaluva, an American but with a not-so-common last name. So when the NBC executive mumbled something like Kur something, Felton immediately answered, "Kaluva?" Felton replaced Kaluva with legendary actor Leo G. Carroll, who was nearly 80 years old at the time.
Huh? Oh, yes. Alexander Waverly, number 1, section 1. In charge of this, our New York headquarters.
Knowing that NBC would never have permitted such an old series regular, Felton adjusted his birth date from 1887 to 1892. And all was well as Carroll made it to the end of the series and died 4 years later in 1972. The first episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Vulcan Affair, aired on September 22, 1964, and it was the first spy-centered series on TV, which led to other series like Mission Impossible, The Avengers, and I Spy. The mix of action, unpredictability, humor, surreal situations, and a touch of sex allowed the show to become a major hit starting in Season 1, which was written and co-produced by senior writer Sam Rolfe. David McCallum went from almost being fired to becoming the show's co-star, and with his Beatles-like haircut, a veritable sex symbol.
I am Illya Kuryakin. I am also an enforcement agent. Like my friend Napoleon, I go and I do whatever I am told to.
McCallum and Vaughn were also the first actors who did many of their own stunts, widespread practice nowadays from Tom Cruise to the Cobra Kai cast. To be exact, both McCallum, Vaughn, and their doubles performed the stunts, and the producer then picked the best version. Well, sometimes best was a figure of speech. In The King of Knaves Affair, Season 1, Episode 13, we can see McCallum's double's face and bad wig throughout the whole balcony fight. Along with its success, the show faced some controversies. Noteworthy is the one that came from, of all places, the United Nations. Felton and Ralph originally wanted to keep the meaning of the U.N.C.L.E. acronym a mystery. But with an official protest from the United Nations, who feared that the UN could mislead the audience, it led the showrunners to reveal the organization's extended name as United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. In 1965, after the end of Season 1, Sam Rolfe left the show and David Victor took his place, changing the mood from a serious spy thriller to a lighter, more pure adventure series. So why was the show canceled midway through its 4th season in 1968? Well, the villain of our story was the wildly popular Batman TV series. The very first episode of the 1966 TV series was such a massive hit with its illogical, humorous, and campy adventures that many TV shows of the day wanted to copy its success. Even now, when a huge success hits the screen and the ratings, showrunners and executives try to understand the reasons behind this popularity and to copy its strong points. In 1966, Batman was a success. The strong point of the show was its campy comedy. Showrunners and executives began to fill their works with the same type of campy episodes to cash in on the show's popularity. Unfortunately, the same thing happened to MGM and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. During its 3rd season, developed by Boris Inkster, the show moved towards slapstick and self-parody. Along with the mood change, the quality of scripts dropped and the ratings imploded. As a result of this choice, the audience left the show and never came back. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was renewed for a 4th season, and they tried to go back to some serious storytelling, but the damage was already done. On January 15, 1968, the show was canceled midway through the season, after airing only 16 out of the planned 30 episodes. But that's not the end of the story. 15 years later, in 1983, CBS Television and its producer, Michael Sloan, contacted Robert Vaughn and David McCallum and made them an offer they couldn't refuse: a special, made-for-television adventure film based on The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Return of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the 15 years later affair, was originally aired on CBS on April 5, 1983. Written by Michael Sloan himself and directed by Ray Austin, this movie was a declaration of love to the original 1964 series. It may not be a perfect, groundbreaking movie, but it's filled with all the magic and the atmosphere that made the U.N.C.L.E. universe a worldwide success. 2 fun facts about this reunion. In the story, Kuryakin and Solo have resigned from U.N.C.L.E., and Illya worked as a fashion designer, while Vaughn was working as a computer businessman. According to rumors, in the original script, their professions were reversed, but McCallum proposed to switch them to surprise the viewers, which it did. Another fact was that George Lazenby cameoed as J.B., riding an Aston Martin with his elegant suit, making him the 3rd Bond featured in 1983, along with Roger Moore in Octopussy and Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again. Finally, our story ends, at least for now, in August of 2015, when Guy Ritchie's movie The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was released, starring Henry Cavill as Solo and Armie Hammer as Kuryakin. A very contemporary spy action story, it tried to be like Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible, which was also inspired by the 1966 series. But that's another story for another time. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and stop back for more TV and movie trivia and in-depth reviews and biographies on Rerun Zone. Goodbye.